more Dave Ramsey video, and this is still continuing the same similar topic, but the labor force in general, right? So right now there's a shortage of people in the labor force. That group was part of it, but there's other bigger factors going in. But let's see what Dave has to say, because it's probably brilliant, and we just don't realize it. Are you ready for some genius to be thrown at you?
Oh man. I don't know, it's kind of late in the day for me to experience true genius. We'll see if I can handle it.
All right, let's see.
This in from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, quotes from them about America's labor shortage. We hear every day from our member companies of every size and industry across nearly every state that they're facing unprecedented challenges trying to find enough workers to fill open jobs. Right now, the latest data shows that we have over 10 million job openings in the U.S. and 5.7 million unemployed workers.
That's all true.
Which would, by definition, folks, mean that we have a negative unemployment rate. And yet we still show positive unemployment. We still show unemployment being in the 3 to 5% range, which economists have long called full employment, by the way. But it also it illustrates what Nick Eberstadt says in his book. He's a Harvard and London School of Economics economist who has done a bunch of studies on this data. And one of the things he discovered is that our current measure of unemployment is antiquated and inaccurate. Because obviously, if we have 10 million job openings and only 5.7 million unemployed workers, we would have zero unemployment. Obviously, it would be a negative unemployment.
It's not how unemployment works. Right. I agree that the unemployment number needs to be updated quite a bit. Most economists agree on that.
I agree with that as well, because it's misleading. It's very misleading.
Right.
The data sort of makes you believe a certain thing because numerically they're kind of representing it that way, but they sort of it's like, you know, when you fail to read the fine print on something and then you realize what you really signed up for, you know, on the cell phone plan or whatever. There's all this sort of fine print that goes with that we don't even have the opportunity to read.
Yeah, so unemployment is basically people who aren't employed who are looking for jobs. Right? That's how they count those people. And that's the total of the workforce. Now,
so Duncan, let's clarify here. So if I stopped looking for work, or if I am underemployed, do I get counted in that number?
No.
By underemployed, I mean, if I work 5 hours a week, it's not enough to pay any of my bills, but I'm employed.
Right. But you don't count in that number. It's just people that aren't employed who are looking for work. Right. That's how the unemployment number is counted. So when he's talking about the number, he doesn't. I can't even remember where we were at.
Okay, so we were clarifying how this number is misleading.
Because
if you're way underemployed or for some reason not looking, you don't even count in the numbers. So the number can look different than kind of the real reality.
Right. So the thing is it's just people who are not working, looking for work. So traditionally unemployment, you're looking to keep it around 2.5% to 3.5%, something like that. Right. In traditional economics, that would be considered full employment. This idea that you'd have 0% unemployment used to be, well, the thought was it would be devastating to the economy because there wouldn't be enough jobs for people coming up. Right. That's starting to change because of how the economy works is changed quite a bit because we're international now. Right. People do work in different countries. We get people coming from different countries. So it's a much bigger playing field now. So this idea of 0% unemployment isn't necessarily a bad idea anymore, of unemployment at least, or 100% unemployment. But we have to look at things like you said, like who's underemployed, because that's still a problem. Who's just simply not looking for work, right? And how do we get them to start being able to contribute, right, and making money? So there are other factors in there, but yeah. So that's the thing. The thing he doesn't understand is if I have 10 million open jobs, but I've got 5 million people who are unemployed, right? They're not working but looking for work. That doesn't mean my unemployment is zero. It means my unemployment is that number, that 5 million, divided by the total people working, right? Looking for work and working. The fact that I have 10 million open jobs doesn't mean anything to the unemployment number. So he doesn't understand the number because he's sitting there, well, that should be zero. Well, no, it's the economists are correct. I don't know why he thinks they're wrong or why the Chamber of Commerce effed this up because they clearly didn't. But we'll let him keep going because he's going to mess this whole thing up like usual.
We have a shortage of workers. We have a lot of jobs, but not enough workers to fill them. The chamber says if every unemployed person in the country found a job, there'd still be 4 million open jobs. What we were just saying. Overall, in 2022, employers ended up adding an unprecedented 4.5 million jobs, but at the same time, millions of Americans have been leaving the labor force.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
In fact, we have nearly 3 million fewer Americans participating in the labor force today compared to February of 2020.
That's true.
Which begs the question, what the hell are they doing?
Well, that is a good question. What is going on, Lace? Why are these people leaving the workforce? Why aren't they working? I wonder if we read the entire article from the Chamber of Commerce that he's holding in his hand, it might explain that. It would seem the Chamber of Commerce would have an explanation to that.
Or at least be interested in trying to figure it out.
Well, the question of why. Why are you not a complete study? You didn't do the whole assignment. If you didn't give me the answer why, if you just came into my office and said, hey, we got a problem with X, and I'm like, well, why? I don't know. Like, well, go freaking find out, man. What good are you?
Why are we writing a whole thing to say, by the way, there's a problem, and that's it?
All right. He didn't offer a solution or what the problem is. So let's look. Understanding America's labor shortage. So he read the first part, blah, blah, blah. But he stops before this. How did this happen? Wow, there's even a big title and everything. Look at that. How did this happen? He's asking the question, and it says right here, at the height of the pandemic, more than 120,000 businesses temporarily closed. And more than 30 million U.S. workers were unemployed. Yeah, because it was a pandemic. Since then, job openings have steadily increased since January 2020. So yeah, there have been more jobs since January 2020, while unemployment has slowly declined. Overall, in 2022, employers ended up adding an unprecedented 4.5 million jobs, but at the same time, millions of Americans have been leaving the labor force since before the pandemic. In fact, we have nearly 3 million fewer Americans participating in the labor force today compared to February 2020. Right? He read that. So understanding the gap, right? The participation rate is down. As you can see, like, I don't know if you can see this graph real well. Let's see if I can. Come on. I always do this. I always suck at this part. Anyway. But as you can see, I don't know, can you see this well, or is it too small?
It's okay.
Okay, but you can see just it peaks here. Unemployment, right? The labor force participation, it was peaked at 63.3, then it dropped to 60.2, and now people are still coming back, right? It's gone up. It's just not to where it was 3 years ago. That's all they're saying. Right? So it's down by about 0.8%. So right now, labor force is 62.6, down from 63.4 in February. It's clear that able workers are being overlooked or sitting on the sidelines, right? So there's two things. They're just not getting jobs, or they're just not looking for jobs. But there's not just one reason that workers are sitting out, but several factors have come together to cause the ongoing shortage, right? And so they went through factors contributing to the labor shortage. People had an increase of savings due to unemployment benefits, stimulus checks, and people weren't spending money during lockdowns or during the pandemic because they were at home. But that's all pretty much gone now because inflation has bled that away. So they talk about that here. High inflation is driving down savings accounts. So that excuse is kind of going away, or has gone away for the most part. The other problem was early retirement spiked. Now, I don't know about you, but I had a bunch of clients that retired back in right before the pandemic was really bad, right?
Right.
Because they didn't want to be out there in the workforce. They're old. They could die, right? Their lives are
You're
more
like,
important.
yeah,
Yeah.
never mind. I'm just gonna peace out early. I was gonna do it in a few years, but I'll just do it now.
Yeah. I'll
Right.
live on less. Child care has become a big problem.
And I'll live.
Yeah. Child care has become a big problem. A lot of people are staying home with their kids because it's too expensive, right? And then people started new businesses, and then there's the great reshuffle where people were sitting there going, well, I don't really like my job, so I'm going to get something else. But there are lots and lots and lots of factors here, right? You can't just nail it down to one thing. I mean, it's lots and lots of things, and that's even not a comprehensive list. So we have that answer. What's the answer? The answer is lots of different reasons. Some people retired early. Some people had some extra savings. Some people are just childcare is too expensive. They can't afford to go back to work. Some people are looking for different types of jobs. Some people are starting new businesses. Lots and lots of stuff, right? Some people just don't have the skills, or they're just overlooked by the labor force, which we talked about in the previous video. So there's lots and lots of things going on. But notice how Dave does not read the rest of this article. That's the common theme with them is they don't read. They only read the parts they like, and then they skip the rest of the article. Let's see. Come on, Dave.
These are adults. How do they eat if they're not working? Who's feeding these people? Well, think about it for a second. It'll come to you. You are.
That's actually not true. It's actually not true. A lot of these people, like we said with the last video, they're just living on less, and they're broke. They're not getting a lot of government benefits. Not the way he's touting it.
Right.
I mean, a lot of those benefits are gone. They ended last year. So, not anymore. But once again, it's the poor person's fault, right? It's got to be individual responsibility only.
Their mama is feeding them. They live in their mother's basement.
Nope.
And in the greatest turn of irony I've ever heard, spend their days playing Call of Duty. Think about the irony of that. It'll come to you. This is what we're going to be talking about with Mike Rowe on May 4th, or these types of things. We've got, according to Eberstat, we've got 7.2 million.
Okay, and see, now it's got to go back to the 7.2 million men, which are not the whole of this image. And even those guys, we figured out their problem is they don't have education. If they did, they'd be probably working.
Well, and you also pointed out that many of them live in smaller or rural communities, which frequently have less employment opportunities and funneled into maybe just a handful of sort of industries and business sectors.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and they're probably doing an odd job here or there under the table, and that's how they're getting by, and that's it.
Right.
But that's the thing that they're missing from this whole big picture. You want these people to start working, you got to give them some reason, some incentive. And right now, if it's like I can't get a good job, I just get overlooked for every job, right? Or minimum wage in my town is $7.25 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's hard. It's hard to be motivated to want to do anything. So I don't know. I think the whole thing is it's once you say maybe it is just they're overprivileged, they don't see it. But I think that's the problem is the mentality is that if you're not rich or you're not doing well, it's because you're just lazy or worthless or something like that, as opposed to you just don't have the advantages to get ahead, which seemed to be what the actual economist working for Obama, not this guy Eberstat who's just writing books for a conservative think tank, but an actual economist presenting government reports is sitting there going, no, the problem is these guys aren't educated. We need to get into a position where we have a workforce that's more educated that can do these jobs. And we just haven't put any money into that. And what's their solution? You should only be allowed to go to college if you can afford it out of your own pocket, which would cut 90% of people out of higher ed, any sort of higher ed, trade school, otherwise. So it's just a stupid conclusion with no backing. They're just making shit up. So that's that's my whole spiel on that. Did you have anything you wanted to add, or no?
No, I think that kind of covers it. Like, this is the topic we've delved into before. It's just amazing.